Hey everyone, in today's video let's talk about narcissists and money, and I'm going to tell you my whole experience about it because I have done just the most complete pendulum swing, being on the two complete opposite sides of a relationship where one, I was paying for everything, and two, I was paying for nothing. And both of these relationships, the reason I feel like I can use them as an example is because like I've mentioned it before, I made this video on 20 signs to identify a covert narcissist, and both of my previous relationships, the two girlfriends that I was involved with, there were a lot of similarities between the two, and additionally, they both called me and discussed with me their apologies for the relationship and whatnot. So really, I guess both of them were with this type of person. And so, yeah, okay, let's go ahead and move into it. I'm going to be telling you my experience with the both of them and kind of what they mean on each side. So whether you're in a relationship with somebody that you're paying everything for, you're paying nothing for, kind of what it means. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be starting off with the one that is going to be paying for everything, because I feel like from what I've heard, a lot of your guys' comments is it seems to be that most of you are in this situation where maybe you're paying for everything or majority of the things, and there seems to be very little back and forth between the two of you. So let's go ahead and dive into it. If you like this content by the end of the video, please consider subscribing and supporting me as a creator through Patreon. So starting off with the one where I was paying for everything, essentially here's kind of what happened. Originally in the relationship, I started to hang out with this girl, and see, this type of relationship is what I wanted to do in this relationship was, because I'm a man, I wanted to step into the provider role. So I actually didn't have a problem with this at first. I wanted to, like I've said before, the way I perceive the masculine and the feminine energy is that the feminine energy is a pearl and the masculine energy is the clam. And so I wanted to be, really step into the clam role and provide a safe environment for this girl that I was developing heavy feelings for and really intense feelings for. And so I started to do this, and it actually was really awesome at first because, the relationship is just getting started. I don't really, see anything that is causing any red flags, and you could say possibly even the love bombing stage starts to hit off, and I'm just, I'm on the top of the world. I'm in my honeymoon stage. I'm living a great life. And as the relationship continues to progress forward, I don't mind paying for things. But eventually, certain things started to come up which started to bother me. And it really came down to, maybe we're like 3-4 months into the relationship, and I had started to notice that I felt like the girl I was in a relationship wasn't really saying thank you for the things that I was doing and for, the experiences I was providing. And I mean, we would go out and do the most fun things. We'd go on different dates. We'd go do different activities. And a lot of it was so much fun that I didn't really even notice. But eventually, after time, it started to feel like there really was no gratitude. And again, this could actually be a little bit of a flaw within myself, because if I am giving genuinely without expecting anything in return, I almost in a way shouldn't even expect a thank you in return. But what started happening, being in this relationship, is that I started to also develop a need to feel significance from this person specifically. And it's something that I made in my previous video, talking about why you keep attracting, or why I kept attracting, narcissistic relationships in my life. And it had to do with an unmet need for significance. As I became dependent on this need to feel significant from this person, and it wasn't really being provided by this person, I started to feel worse and worse every time I gave part of myself, and it almost started to feel like giving to this person was taking away from me, which is not really even the proper way to give. And essentially this loop started being created, this feedback loop, where it almost wasn't even enjoyable to give anymore, especially because I had become dependent on significance from this other person. And because I wasn't feeling appreciated, I wasn't even sometimes getting a thank you. I discussed it with this person, and I was like, hey, I kind of feel like you don't really say thank you sometimes. And then she started saying thank you, for these experiences. But then I caught myself in this crazy mental loop where now I didn't even feel like it was genuine. And I feel like I had almost inadvertently created this scenario where maybe even she didn't feel safe to receive from me, maybe from her previous experiences or maybe from me, because now all of a sudden there was this dynamic where maybe I wasn't giving fully. And because I wasn't giving fully, I was expecting a thank you. Now I felt devalued and she didn't feel safe because now I had accidentally put a string attached to the giving. So I encourage you, if you're in this situation, maybe consider to yourself, maybe you're attaching a little string to when you're giving. Because I know at first I wasn't, but over time, because I'd become dependent on feeling significant from her, I had started attaching a string, and that created a situation that was unhealthy for me. So if you're in this type of situation, it's really important to recognize whether you are just giving because you feel inspired and happy and have no strings attached to just give without expecting anything in return, or if maybe are you depending on them to fulfill a need for significance that maybe they don't really want to feel, or maybe there's something inside of you that needs to be healed that is attaching a string for the need of significance, because that's what was happening to me. So having become aware of this, I can think back to the memories where maybe I had actually created a situation in my life where I was making myself feel insignificant by attaching a string to this. Now, for the next relationship that I had, is that at this point in my life, a lot of bad things. I guess I had created a lot of negative situations in my life where I was like 18 years old. I had like moved down to California, and like I pretty much essentially lost all my money because I was 18. I wasn't, I was full set on the entrepreneur route, which, I still am, but I wasn't able to get my business going up and running at that time. So essentially what happened was that I got evicted from my apartment and I got my car repossessed. Great. Congratulations, credit score, right? Which anyway, it's being rebuilt now, but that's, a different story. So all of that happened, and I'm in this situation where I'm making absolutely zero money. Credit's ruined at 18, classic, right? And, she's making money and she's doing good. I'm just trying to get back up on my feet after, moving home again and stuff. And in this situation, what I feel like started happening was, we're going back to the pearl clam analogy. She started providing things, and it made me feel uneasy because I didn't feel properly like I was doing my job as a clam because I wasn't able to provide. And in this situation, I started feeling the opposite end of what I had just described to you in this relationship. Now, all of a sudden, I felt to a certain extent, things were being given and there was an underlying string attached. And the string that I felt like was being attached was this need for I receive something and in return, she gets attention from me. And maybe sometimes, I'm just being honest, and sometimes she watches these videos, so I'm sorry if you're listening to this, but let's just be honest. I felt like because I'm in this stage in my life where I'm fully focused, I really don't necessarily want any ties to a relationship right now. I want to, build, I guess, my empire, you could say. I want to build my empire. I want to build my businesses. I want to build my lifestyle. I want to do all those things, and I don't necessarily want any strings attached to a relationship, and that's what I wanted to focus on. That's where I wanted my attention to go. But a part of me felt guilty because now all of a sudden I was receiving things, and if I wasn't giving the proper attention to this relationship, it would come back at me negatively. We'd get into arguments, negative things would happen, and it just created this relationship dynamic where all of a sudden I was feeling tied into owing this person attention when I really wasn't in a point in my life where I felt happy and satisfied giving that attention to that person, because I had other priorities that I was placing above the relationship. And because I had felt, I guess, shamed or morally obligated when I didn't want to give attention, the string that I felt like was being attached to the things that I was receiving was now creating an unhappy situation my whole life. So if you're in this type of situation, please consider what strings are being attached to the things you're receiving, and whether or not you're receiving them with full, genuine giving, expecting nothing in return. If you feel like you are receiving things with a string attached, what that's going to do is it's going to make you feel unsafe receiving things. And that sucks, because feeling unsafe receiving things puts you in a dangerous situation where now your trust level is starting to lower between your relationships with everybody, because now you're going to be hypersensitive to receiving things from multiple people. I can say sometimes now I'm especially careful when I receive things, and it makes me double guess things now sometimes, and I just feel like I need to trust the world and trust myself to receive happily and healthily. So that is the personal growth that I experienced from that situation. And I guess what I want to say is the big moral lesson that I've learned from both of these relationships is to be careful when it comes to receiving, and be careful when it comes to giving. There's two things to watch out for: giving with strings attached and receiving with strings attached. Because giving and receiving with a covert contract attached to it is going to make you feel unsafe. And it's potentially going to make the other person feel unsafe. And if you don't feel good about the things that you are giving and receiving and there's strings attached, and they are not overt strings attached. I mean, if they're not, I guess, yeah, if you're consciously transactional, consciously have interactions going back and forth, that will lead to a healthier relationship. Think of a business contract, right? You give somebody money, they give you a service or a product in return. That is a conscious transaction where you're exchanging goods and things are fine. And nobody feels butthurt as long as everybody keeps up their end of the deal. But if you have a covert contract underneath anything and you're giving or receiving with strings attached, you are not going to feel safe giving or receiving in any situation. And what that's going to do for your life is it's going to make you feel unsafe interacting with other people. So what needs to happen in your life in order to grow from these experiences, if you've had the same experiences that I've had, and what I'm trying to do to help grow my life in this so that I have relationships where it is safe to give and receive and there's no issues here, is to be overt and consciously transactional. Even going as far as telling somebody, I will do this thing for you, maybe I'll do this favor for you, but could you also do this favor for me? There's nothing wrong. In fact, it's better to meet your needs consciously and overtly than to try to meet them in a covert way. Because then you are being authentic with yourself about your needs, and you're being authentic with other people about your needs. And all that is going to do is create an atmosphere of trust, of conscious transactions, and authenticity between you and the other person that you are helping with these transactions, these giving and receiving transactions in. So that does it for this video. If you like this type of content, hit subscribe. And also, if you want to support me as a creator so I can do this channel full time, hit the link in the description down below to sign up for the Patreon, where you get exclusive content with me, and we have a once a month live hangout. You guys are awesome. I love you guys so much. See you on the next vid.